Dan looks like he's taking this meeting in the hallway. Big countdown.
All right, barbecue yesterday?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the May 31st Public Safety Meeting. Called the meeting to order. Could I get a motion to accept the minutes for our May 3rd, 2022? Second. Thanks. All in favor? Discussion, I'm sorry. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Department reports. We have EMS up first, I guess. Bruce?
Just an appointment to the advisory board. There used to be somebody from either on all the time, and now this young lady is going to be their representative.
I have a motion to appoint Irene. Okay. Second, Jim, thank you. Dave, sorry. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Bruce. Anything else? All right, sir. Mike, you're next.
Sure. What do you want me here?
You can do it from right there.
Or?
Just-
All right, that'd be great.
Everybody can hear. You're okay.
Great.
They can't see
They can't
him.
see you.
They
Can't
can't
see
see him if he's over there. I don't believe.
You're hidden behind the pillar.
Oh, okay. All we can see is the bottom of your shoe.
Thank you. I just wanted to update you on community service activities. Right now, we're starting to roll with the nice weather, but it just completed, the crews just completed a painting project in town of Greenwich at the VFW. They did the repainted the inside of the pavilion. We completed mowing for the holiday weekend from Murray Martindale Park. We turned over the leaf garden, got it ready for planting as well. Tripoli Cemetery was completed for the holiday weekend. And we did some work at our community garden over in Argyle. So on the list that we'll be starting next week, actually, a moving project for Easton to move some of their offices downstairs. In Salem, we're going to be painting the front of the field courthouse, as well as a building out back. And Fort Edward has two small painting projects we're going to do. And we're moving to Hartford probably sometime in August to do some work over there on painting. So if you have projects, anything, we have the younger 14, 15-year-old youth work crews are available. And we have 16, 17, 18, which is helping greatly with mowing and filling in those commitments that we made. So that's all I have. Things are going good.
Anybody have any questions for me?
Whatever he's using the paint. It was the last remaining Civil War list of Center Hall, New York State. It's gonna get painted. It should be great. Opening for it. We're gonna list. We're gonna list.
Excellent. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
Let's see if we can AR some of that.
Public safety. Glenn?
Not on this, on the agenda, because we found out at 5 o'clock on Friday. We received our awards for our 2022 Homeland Security Grant, which is the grant that we share with the Sheriff's Office. Same amount as last year, $68,285. They've upped the percentage for the Sheriff's Department, so that's 30%. Up from 25%. So the sheriff's portion of that is $20,486. And then they notified us of our emergency management grant for 2022, which was $28,837. We got a whopping increase of $759. And like I said, they told us about it at 5 o'clock on Friday and gave us 6 days to do our paperwork and get it submitted to them. So those are both due to the state. We have to do the application. And it has to be submitted by next Monday. So
We need a motion. to
Recognize those.
Accept.
What?
Board of Finance.
Dave. Dana, second, discussion. Thank you for that. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right. Seven finance. Now I guess, yeah, all
All
right.
right, I'll just come up here a little easier. So we have 3 different county policies that we've been working from the facility safety response team side to update, 2 of which are existing. One is new that never existed previous. So the first. In order of
So the highlights, or any changes are highlighted in red. The first is the county's identification policy, which is currently existing and has been in place since 2018. So originally, the personnel department was doing IDs, then it went to public safety, then it went back to personnel, it's back to public safety now. So in working with Danielle and Melissa, we made some small changes to it to act, or actually reflect how the operation is currently working. So when a new employee is hired, they're processed at personnel notifies us that they're ready for identification, and then we issue the ID. So anything after that, whether it's a lost ID, stolen ID, anything like that, we clarified the process in there, which you'll see all that red wording on there. That's why I couldn't even tell it really well. So you could tell where any changes were made. And then the identification update request form was in addition onto the end of that. So other than the simple procedural change of it's formally written as to how it's being done, any changes minimal to the policy.
What we need a motion to update the policy.
Correct. Because these are countywide policies.
I'll move, Mr. Chairman.
Scott, second, Dave, Dana. Discussion? Dana.
Thank you for putting the new language in red, but you removed old language and we don't see the old one.
Correct. Most of the old language said personnel department. And it said what the old form was just ID request form. So we just updated it to say what was current.
No, but if I turn the second page, I can see where the new language, if you remove the new language, the old sentence doesn't make any sense. So I think you have to delete omitted words from the old language, which we don't see what you had a strikeout and a new edition.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Personnel, just put in.
No, but all these things in red are.
The majority of which says Department of Public Safety or identification of the request.
Read accountability, it doesn't make sense. Okay.
What would you like me to do?
Well, no. Ideally, the old language would have a strike through or something, and the new language would be included, so that we could see the total change. But if you read under accountability, if you remove the new language, it doesn't make sense. At the discretion of any person who loses.
And it says formally at the discretion of the personnel department. And now it says Department of Public Safety conferring with the personnel officer.
But I don't know what formally it's said because it's not provided.
Okay. But I could have somebody run the old one up here if you'd like to.
No, I just mean in the future, this is a good idea, but it's like, it's 90% of a good idea, 100%. Because I'm trying to teach Dave O'Brien the same thing with his IDA.
Understood.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Off to a good start.
Motion carried. Okay, there's policy number 1.
All right, so number 2 is the county's access control policy, which is existing since 2018. Any new changes are in red. There are no strike throughs to answer Mr. Heff's question before it comes up. All right, so the responsibility section did not exist previously, so you don't have to worry about what was removed because it wasn't there before. So as we get to the next policy, some of these policies that involve multiple departments and what they're responsible for, we're trying to outline what the responsibilities are clearly. So that entire section is new, did not exist and did not replace anything else. And you will see, other than that, there is not much in the way of updates to the access control system policy. Other than adding Burgoyne, correct, which didn't exist when the initial policy was
Thank you.
Buildings and grounds.
I have one question for you. For all employees, which I am an employee, right? So I need to start wearing lanyards and things like that according to this one, right? I do what it says, employees who are issued. And I say I don't want to be issued one, so I'm not an employee who was issued one. I wasn't paying attention until halfway through.
We've all come to the conclusion you're one thing on everything, so we're just gonna do that.
But should it say all employees shall be issued, I think, or just the employees who are issued?
You should have.
He should have a computer too,
We can arrange that as soon as the meeting's over.
but
Yeah, anybody that's supposed to be here should have one of these things. Mr. Hankins got one. I see, so that we know you belong. Encourage you,
Defender to that one.
we encourage you to wear them.
Wasn't it, not so much for people on the table, more for employees who walk in the hallway, you know that you belong here somewhere, authorized representatives.
you have a file.
I'm going to have a Bob's and a ID badge.
We'd rather you didn't do that.
So I was gonna ask, is building and grounds okay with the paragraph? Roger, are you okay with that paragraph?
Yes. And we have the internal discussion. The thing is, if we all get hit by a bus, and we all know what we do. But as people gradually leave, you have to memorialize the fact that the next person knows what. they're supposed to do.
You good with your paragraph? All right. That's all the question I have.
I see that. You answered my question. All employees were issued a card. This is great. So, great.
We can make your
We're gonna
appointment.
great. We're gonna get out of payroll and I won't wear it. I won't wear it.
Maintain your file in good condition.
All right.
So I have a motion to approve policy. Dan. Second. Any further discussion on this policy? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, policy number 2, access control. Approved. Policy number 3.
All right, number 3, this is a new policy. Systems existed before, however, there was no policy.
So it should all be in red.
So, and to save the red ink on my printer, everything's in black, but it's all brand new.
No.
This is the proposed county video recording system policy, which this was done or put together by the members of the facility safety response team, so the county administrator, county attorney, public safety, the safety officer, in coordination with IT. We met with Terry and discussed this. So we've had video recording systems here since at least 2004 in some form or another. Obviously, last year, we replaced what was there and trying to centralize the system that exists, with the exception of what is at the law enforcement center is completely standalone, run by the sheriff independently. So we're trying to get on paper what the system is, how it will be used, and to clarify that and put a policy into place. So we are here obviously with a proposal that we all put together and came up with. And we're looking to move forward with it.
Just in.
So you would install new cameras around the campus and that's what this is about.
New cameras are already being installed based on the project that was approved by the board last year.
And replacements of old cameras.
But this does not relate to this conference. This is just security cameras around the campus.
Correct.
In the hallways, at entrances.
Outdoors,
Oh, it's gonna be
park
parking
areas.
The prior system was somewhat ad hoc. You'd say, I have, like, the treasurer handles a lot of money. Maybe we should put a camera there, one would go. You know, a DMV has a lot of, maybe we should put it up it, and there was no coordination, there was no overarching team, there was no policy with how you get one, who looks at it, where it goes, all the rest of it. So when replacing the cameras, upgrading the camera system that we have, which includes replacing those and then putting in new ones, we thought perhaps we should have some kind of, you know, overarching theme about how these things are going to be used, who can access the footage, what we can do with them.
Yes.
I've never heard of the facilities safety response team before. Could you give me what that is?
And it's an ad hoc group of the people who are generally responsible on a day-to-day basis for the facility. We get together and have a meeting where we talk about what we should propose to the board, things like this, things like the ID policy, things like the, what was the third one? I can't remember. Access
Who
control.
appoints those members?
They're not appointed. Those are, each one of us has those as part of our duties, as our job description. So we coordinate amongst ourselves so that we have one coherent thought, rather than Tim coming here and saying, I think that's a good idea, and then me raising my hand and saying, I think that's a dumb idea, and then having the safety officer going, who thought of that? Or maybe we should do it a different way. We talk amongst each other, and then we bring this new, hopefully, with a synthesized plan.
Beat a dead horse.
Yes, please.
This is in no way related to this, I even forget what it's called now, this COVID response incident shadow government team, right?
Correct.
It's not related to that.
Has nothing to do with.
Some of the same members,
That's correct.
all of the same members?
All public health.
Shadow go.
No public health.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So the intent here, again, was to formally frame up policy that everybody could be aware of. We have the capability already in place, and we just need to make sure we had something in black and white, put the framework around.
I'm trying to shadow government, I wouldn't show it.
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Dana. Second.
Other things we don't see.
But
You could take that with you.
I do appreciate it's important who has access, and why they have access to the system in here. Without that, people from Hartford could look this stuff and reason.
Good point.
Do I have a second on the motion? Thank you, sir.
Jim says yes.
Thank you, Dave.
One
Is Fred here?
more technical question. It says the storage is stored on the devices for 30 days. So each camera has a memory stick in it. It's not into some central processor.
So there's two different methods. So it stores locally on the device, then there's the ability to back it up to the cloud as well.
You can store 30 days with this on a video camera. That's a lot.
Yes.
Isn't that humongous?
Well, these things have more computing power now than most laptops.
Or the auto. Is this?
Well,
It might be.
Depending on the situation.
another one of the attorneys does.
Well, so, you know, critical infrastructure areas, things that might reveal the overall security plan of the building might not be, okay? Other specific incidents could be. If you want to say, I like to see every camera in the place to see some of that, and get my way from room to room and figure out where I'm not to be seen, you might have a problem with that.
If there's an incident and then it goes to the sheriff's department and or, public defender at all.
Wouldn't it have to go to the cloud? Because what if 6 months from now, somebody says, I want to see security footage of that door at this time on that day.
And retention's part of it.
Yeah, it's 30 days, no more than 30 days.
So then we say it's not available.
Correct. But unless there's an incident and it gets recorded and then there's a request.
It gets
before
flagged.
information.
Yeah, so we outline the process much as we do with anything else. If we're notified of an incident, the footage will be secured and maintained until it's no longer needed. Otherwise, it goes through the regular retention schedule of 30 days.
And we've used it. We have, break in, well, we've had a break in the car at, public health, for instance. So we've had some other instances where people wanted the video. And, well, that was part of the reason that this policy came about. And that was before we put in new cameras, and that various people were accessing that footage and then passing it around to other people, including the press. So,
We'll call him Ham. Because we're just skunk in the building. It was a YouTube sensation.
So we, that precipitated a great deal of this discussion about who, what, where, when, and how.
Everything, all those, the second page, first sentence. Neighborhood police system device operation status. Is that maybe not something IT should have a profile in?
Which part?
The very first sentence, under your Department of Public Safety,
Yep.
Safety Officer. The verification of system and device operation status. I would assume that would be everything from the camera's not working to something fuzzy.
Yeah, so if we encounter an issue or an issue is reported to us, we'll look at it. If it's not something we can do, we'll coordinate with IT. If it's something network wise, and otherwise we'll coordinate with the vendor. So yeah, IT would be involved if we need them. If it's not something we can correct on our own, yes.
It comes under coordinating installation and networking needs with information technology.
It just seemed like they probably would have a higher profile in mechanical processes of things. I would think even have some kind of a routine monitoring thing for the network status and that sort of thing. You guys can do all that too?
Yeah, so we're gonna have it set up so we'll be notified via email if a camera's down, if a camera's some issue with connection, something like that. So we'll get notification and then we'll check with Terry and see if it's a network issue or if it's an actual system issue.
Okay.
Terry can speak for herself, but we didn't write this trying to shut Terry out. As a matter of fact, she's one of the people
No, I-
involved in the discussion. Again, informal working group, right? It changes as you need it. Terry was one of the people that sat in on talking about this. So
I wasn't implying you're trying to cut it
her
off.
shadow was involved in that part, not in the other two that were involved.
It just seemed like maybe, IT would have a higher profile. If not, that's fine. It sounds like an extra workload for you guys.
That's in today's day and age, I mean, Terry can speak to it because we've been through all the demos and working through it together. Much of it is automated. So if a camera goes offline or if one of the stations go offline, get an email notifying you something's offline. So if we get 5 of them, we know chances are we got a network issue. Obviously, if it's not something we can resolve, certainly we would reach out to IT just like we do with access control if we don't have connectivity to one of the panels or something like that.
And she's doing the installation.
Terry, go ahead, you want any more clarification there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's one of the most beautiful parts of this new camera system is that it's not like the old days where you have big central servers or on-prem devices that take a lot of management by IT. These are literally a camera that talks to the cloud. And so if it has internet access, it can work from anywhere. And so the troubleshooting is very limited and that's why I think it's a great partnership between public safety and IT for the management of the devices. Also, the reason we love the camera system because they're completely scalable. We can add on or take away at any time.
Dina?
Do we now have signage on the building that says, like when you walk into Stewart's, it says VR, video recording? Do we have signage that informs the public they're being recorded, and do we have to have that? Because I'm wondering why every Stewart's has a VR.
That's John's business. It's not video recording, it's the, go ahead, John.
That tells you how the building is constructed. It's required
It's not video recording? Nope.
Every building has to have.
Roman numeral 5.
Take your mask off. I'm doing something. Now you can take your mask off.
For the firefighters.
But that is a good question because I think in the past, there was an expectation that you were not. Today, I think the expectation is you are being recorded.
I would have no problem putting up signs because signs themselves act as a deterrent. So if the board wants to put up signs. I think as a matter of fact, we might have one. Signs are great, but I don't have a problem with everybody. Right, and then there is no expectation of privacy. This building, that's why we're not monitoring non-public work areas. This isn't a supervision tool, this is a monitoring of public areas for safety and security of visitors and our staff.
Are they audio also?
It could be, but they're not, because I don't want to pick up anything. I don't want to pick up 2 caseworkers talking about a case, or I don't want to have somebody making a phone call to the gas pump to their supervisor, picking up the audio.
Situation dependent, I guess. You can turn the audio on. You click.
If we had an active shooter, we'd probably turn the audio on.
Motion to approve. Aye. Second. Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That's third policy. Anything else, sir?
The last thing I have is we wanted to request, we've got a new project that we really need to begin. So our CAD system, the computer aided dispatch system, which obviously handles the activity for the entire county, fire department, EMS agency, law enforcement agency. We track for code enforcement, social services, public health, any of the times that they're off hours or we're taking calls for those folks. All of those incidents are recorded in the CAD system. That is what all of our communications folks use to pass information amongst themselves in the room and to the first responders in the field. So we started with that system that we currently have in 2014. We've recently received notification from the vendor that the vendor has sold his interest in the company. So moving forward, we're at the time where we need to either refresh or upgrade or replace that system by far. So we are looking to start a work group of our own folks, field personnel, significantly including the sheriff's office, because the CAD system relates to the RMS, which relates to the mobile and all those other parts and pieces. So I don't want to speak for the sheriff, but we have talked with Terry and talked with the sheriff, and we know that we need to look at a future of CAD and include mobile and RMS, whatever the sheriff's purview is on it. And that's something we need to start now, at least from the CAD side. We have no backup system. That is the only system. So if we lose that system, we are running on pen and paper. And it takes about 2 years from start to finish. So if we got approval to purchase the system today, after going out to RFP, we're talking 2 years until we're operational.
But for some of the new supervisors here, last time we did this, it was a budget buster. It was hugely expensive which way we go, and it's gonna be having the same issues again, I think, because this is really expensive, isn't it?
Correct.
Yes, like over $1 million, right?
It has the potential.
And have we been budgeting anything incrementally for new CAD each year, knowing that at one point the one we have will die? Have we been doing anything like that?
So this was in a capital project, and maybe Al or Melissa can jump in. This was in a capital project a couple of years ago, and it was slated for 2022, 2023. And I don't know what happened from there, but I know at one point it was in there. We are not budgeting anything for it every year.
I understand that it was removed because it was an IT item. Is that your recollection? So it was removed from the actual capital plan?
Let's talk about it later conversation. Because the number scares me.
Yeah, well, now or later. So the bottom line for this committee is bad news doesn't get better with time. This is, the fact of the matter is we got a sole source product that worked very well for us. It may not work that well going into the future because the individual's getting out of the business.
It didn't work.
No, the one that we have now currently, with lots of, sweat equity into it, is serving us well right now, but it's not going to last. The problem is we don't have a lot of commercial off-the-shelf technology out there that's acceptable that we could just say, hey, we like that one, like going to a grocery store or a department store, you kind of shop for the best option. And that's kind of what we're into right now, is trying to figure out what are the best options.
So what the problem was that from last time, we had a hard time finding something that was simple enough for us because the vendors had very complex things with aviation units, marine units, and it was like all the bells and whistles, and we didn't need all that, which was the problem because it was hard to find something. Am I saying it right? It was kind of, so when we did pick something that we thought was simple enough, it turned out to be it had a lot of
Right. So ideally, our hope would be that we get a system that works across the board, that works RMS, mobile, CAD. It does everything the sheriff needs. It does everything that we need. We know that those type of systems are dwindling. If it exists, that's great. That's our goal, is to get something like that. If it doesn't, we know that we may have to have split systems with interfaces that work together. I mean, I think we're committed. I know our folks are committed to working with the sheriff's folks to try and see what the best possible solution is to present to you all. as we go down this, and we want to do it obviously together if that's possible. For us, we have all those other field partners as well. We have all the village PDs, that are essential. When we have agencies that don't use like the mobile side, it creates a lot of extra work for the communication staff. It takes and significantly, increases the amount of time to relay information back and forth. And this is critical information that, you're tied up giving over the radio, and you can only give out one message at a time. So if you got 5 different things going on, a village PD can be looking at an active call while we're giving out another call. So when you have users that don't participate, don't use it, that creates a struggle for us on the inside as well as for them on the outside. So the goal is to find something that works the best we can and still is financially sound. And obviously we want to do it right. That's why we're asking to start now to identify a work group made up of our folks, folks from the sheriff's office, involve some of our field partners as well. And then certainly any of you all who want to participate, we'll let you know when we're having the demos and those kind of things. We really want to make sure that we're doing this the right way. And that it's a system that actually works, for our needs and meets the needs of the staff and the field units too.
2 things, Terry, I'm assuming this isn't anywhere near your radar at the moment.
What do you mean near my radar?
Your capital plan, your long-term project, this is out of your budget. I mean, you're not, okay. So after our last discussion in government ops regarding the LEC roof, and I had a discussion with budget officers and say, we're talking about the LEC roof, we're talking about rooftop units, we're talking about the 2 barns coming up. I was talking about paying cash versus bonding those things. I told Brian, listen, we need to have a discussion about the capital plan, like the next 9 months, so we can all get caught up on where we are, because there's a lot of things around there, since we've spoken about it, that we've crossed off. We're going stuff. So, now correct me, I think things have been a little behind schedule because of COVID, but I mean, 22 and 23, I think there's a bunch of stuff on the capital plan coming up for expenditures, and we're putting $1 million from this year's budget into the capital plan, but beyond that, I mean, 24, it was sort of, we're thinking about this. So if you could have a discussion with the budget officer prior to when he brings up in finance, that would be great to put that in the mix, right? To talk about which is the priority for all those projects.
Sure.
It would probably be a good idea.
Sure. We absolutely need to update the capital plan. There's no doubt. We're probably 2 years shorter than I would like it to be right now.
Because 24 and 25 was like two things and one thing, or
Fairly small ticket items, like 100,
Yeah,
120-ish type. They're not that that's not a lot of money, but in comparison to these
what are you
costs,
talking about?
they're minimal.
I mean, it's 2024, we'll never make it that one, or is that a reasonable thing to start?
Yeah, I mean, we know 2024 is reasonable. I mean, we're 2 years if we sign today before we'd be implementing. So obviously, it's a reasonable solution. The hard part is you don't know. So with the current vendor, the way it is, he has put so much of his time and effort into getting us where we are today, and we're thankful for that. And it worked to the point where we don't have stability issues. It's operating as expected at this point. The future, I mean, obviously, we don't know what the future holds. I'm not sure what, we haven't heard from the new company or anything yet. He's still involved at this point, so we've had some good discussions with him. But obviously, we know being a 2-year project, waiting 2 years to start it is not, it's not realistic for us, because we'll be 4 years out from there if we're talking about starting in 2024. That's why, at least starting now and having an idea of what we're looking at cost-wise, functionality-wise, is going to be important to basically answer the question that you're looking for.
Well,
Not everybody's going to
it
be.
might behoove you to talk to the budget office between now and a week from Thursday.
Sure.
In case he decides to put it on the agenda to talk about that. And slide that in where you think it might belong.
Absolutely.
Because to your point, Matt, the reason the IT items were brought back to general fund was because of the size and scope. This one would definitely qualify to stay out in the capital project and not be brought back in general. The size and scope of this would qualify to stay out in that capital plan project. That's where I would recommend Brian consider it.
The whole discussion.
Yes, sir. The whole.
And I think from where we are today, in working with the sheriff, the program is shaped into being something that could handle a lot more. as far as bringing the other agencies on board and increasing integration and exchanging information. Like that's the platform we need to continue moving forward to help all of us, not only our first responders in the field, but, you know, in the communication center and exchanging information and getting the job done more efficiently, safer, those kind of things. So, I mean, it's so important that we keep rolling in the same direction. But yeah, absolutely, we'll have that conversation with the budget officer and get him an idea of what we're potentially looking at.
I mean, he blew off this morning in today's meeting because he's out hanging. He used that little jab. Doesn't happen.
No comment.
So I'm not, Austin did a great job,
Absolutely.
but I think that when he started out, he had visions of working with us. He was developing the systems so he'd go out and sell it, but I don't think it's rolled out like he expected it to. They had some changes in ownership that affected things. One of the biggest concerns is that is the next owner might have the financial resource to put into this to make sure he's doing the development process like it should be done. And I know that Austin did a great job, but I think that in some cases, especially when early days, Austin wasn't quite as good as it should be. So it caused some real heartaches. Came through its growing back. It is time to look at it. Back then, there were companies that talked about interfaces. I don't think just doing interfaces today between systems is a lot smoother than it used to be. So I wouldn't be afraid of interfaces as long as they're properly tested.
And certainly, I will say 100%, the vendor spent a lot of time with myself and our staff, Lieutenant Lemery and the sheriff, correcting issues as they came up. I mean, a lot more than we would ever got from any other vendor. I mean, rarely do you talk to the owner of the company who is sitting there doing programming. So there are a lot of benefits. Obviously, going forward in the future, you know, we would also be having these conversations with them of what's the future of the company? What are you looking for? You know, as far as the company that's taking over, you know, ownership, what are your plans for this product or replacing it with another one? Now, obviously, we're kind of looking at this as a wide open scope right now to figure out which direction to move. We just kind of wanted to hope that that you all would support us at least starting to get that together.
I think you need to move on today. But the intent today, I think, was just to update the committee and let it move. We gotta move forward.
I'll make a motion on that. Put on a committee.
The ad hoc working group.
That helps prevent the shadow.
Guaranteed to function in the system.
So who knows, you know, the current vendor may compete well for a future contract. They want to participate in this, but we gotta get to the point where we have some options on the table and some pricing and have an understanding of what that timeline would be. But right now we're looking at uncertainty in terms of how long can we sustain this. So more to follow. Anyone else have anything to go before the committee? Jim is on the call, by the way, Dave. Go ahead, Dave.
So one thing we've talked about before, never gone that far with, is dog control, countywide dog control. I think look at some of the issues people have had, and more delays in getting responses. So I don't know if it's time we should take a look at that again.
So it's a working group, doesn't it?
I think Bob Baker should share it.
So are there any counties that do dog control that you guys are aware of anywhere in the state of New York?
Does it? Warren County, does they contract it out?
I think so.
Warren County,
They contract it out.
Warren County's countywide, yes.
So they contract it.
K9 something.
They contract it, they don't.
They don't do it themselves. But I think at one time, the sheriff was talking about, he thought there was a possibility of something worked out. You're called on a lot of dog calls anyways.
Right.
State troopers and sheriff called on them. So then we waited 4 hours or 3 hours for someone to come up, pick up some dogs he had. unfortunate situation, but, you know, should we look at that? Are we getting the response time we need and people need for dog bites, for other things? More.
Back in January of 2021, Bob Hankey wrote a whole thing on one page, you know, about consideration of county dog control. I read it, I go back on some of my issues.
You guys got this?
That takes.
Well, I think we're gonna bring it up for discussion.
I didn't know.
I would like to add some preparation.
Well, I didn't know it was coming up for discussion until he did.
I don't think this is another conversation. Let's put it on the agenda so we'll have time to just look at it and review it. What I'd be concerned about is getting involved in county dog control. Right now. Asking for taxpayers to fund part of that as well. We have a program right now, but
No, we don't have to, we don't have to. I think it should be
Exactly.
a paid, that paid,
kind of like
paid,
do with assessment.
Years ago.
Be good.
and code, and that code enforcement, it should be the same thing, pay to play.
Yep.
If you pay your own dog. Yeah, we'll bring this up next month.
Is this the conversation you would want the sheriff to be a part of? Like, this is something you'd want the sheriff's office to take over? Okay,
Well, Wayne should be involved in the conversation.
okay.
Because a few years ago, the sheriff said he thought he could do it. So have things changed? Can he do it better now, or maybe he can't do it now? That was a few years ago. I have to see.
Because the sheriff is actually going to have a conversation the next month about.
Yeah. Basically, you know, moving off the last time, so I
All right, well,
I can probably reach into my interest.
so to be fair to process, I don't think we have a crisis on this agenda item for the next meeting.
It's just been brought up a couple times and kind of keeps getting kicked down the road. The can keeps getting kicked down
Those
the
are
road.
part of the shared services plan that Chris got bring up again.
Yeah, that's where I heard it mentioned shared service. Candidly, I mean, town of Putnam would benefit from that. All right, so we can set it up for agenda item. Anything else? Come forward. Nothing heard. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.